We got a lot today. We got Andrew Tate. We got Matt Walsh, T-App. We got the Coldplay cheaters. This sounds like the worst dinner party ever, by the way, or the best. I don't really know. I don't know what you would serve with that crowd.
The cheating CEO, the Coldplay CEO.
Coldplay.
The classic Andrew Tate comes out with a video. We won't watch the whole thing. It's like 10 minutes long of him defending the CEO.
Yes.
Saying the CEO was justified in cheating. He's rich. He's a high value man.
Yes, I'm familiar with the argument.
So what makes this drama interesting is that less than 24 hours after this Twitter video goes out, Matt Walsh fires back on his official YouTube page with an entire video. What are your thoughts on the situation? Is Matt in the right? Is Andrew Tate in the right?
I mean, what I'll say is they're both absolutely consistent with their past positions. And I hear both of their arguments. I don't know that I would fully align myself with either of them. I think Andrew Tate's argument is what Andrew's argument normally would be, I think, in circumstances like this, which is his entire brand is built around the concept of, you know, male empowerment and hypergamy, and that, you know, monogamy is not sort of a natural state for men, although he sort of reconciles that with his own religious beliefs. Matt is a very, you know, religious Catholic individual. He is very much into the concept of marriage as a biblical sacrament. We had, I won't call it a debate about that on the Daily Wire. We had a discussion about it. He agreed with a lot of my position, and I agreed with a lot of his views on things, probably more so than either of us anticipated when we set it up. But I think Matt has a very traditional, you know, civilization and its discontents by Freud approach to things, which is that, you know, marriage is about controlling your drives. Discipline and strength is about controlling your drives. You know, Andrew Tate would say that man in his natural state is going to be prone to, you know, non-monogamous connection with women and fulfilling his desires. Matt Walsh would tend to say that the ability to transcend one's base or animalistic desires is the thing that makes us something other than the quote unquote lesser animals. My initial reaction to this is I think it's insane how fascinated by infidelity people are. I see it in my own work that, you know, when I talk to people about infidelity, and it comes up a lot in my written work and in my media work, a lot of times people, you know, I'm always sort of shocked when people are shocked by infidelity. People come into my office and they're like, I can't believe my wife was cheating on me. I can't believe my husband was cheating on me. And I'm like, really? You can't believe that? Like, that's outside the, like, I sort of thought that's like it's like saying, I can't believe I was jumping on the trampoline and I broke my leg. It's like, it's kind of inherent in that arrangement that, like, that's one of the risks, you know, like, I mean, not to invoke 9/11, but, you know, to say like, I'm a trader at Cantor Fitzgerald in World Trade Center and I got killed in an exploding building, like, who the hell would have seen that coming? But if you say, hey, I was a firefighter responding to a building that a plane had flown into, and I was killed in the line of trying to save people, I mean, they're both completely tragic, and they're both things that obviously should have been avoided if possible. But a firefighter dying in an exploding building is a much more conceivable possibility than someone who's a bond trader, you know, just at their desk and this horrible thing happens. Again, neither one of them is like, oh, well, no big deal, like assumption of risk. I think a firefighter dying in a fire is not only tragic, but it's also so unbelievably heroic that anyone would do that job and put themselves at risk for people they don't even know. So there is a unique sort of tragedy to that. But you certainly can't say that a firefighter doesn't contemplate the possibility of dying in a fire, just like a police officer being shot in the line of duty. You know, of course, we should do everything we can to minimize something like that from happening. But, you know, the chances of someone getting shot who's a police officer in the line of duty is much higher than if you were a school teacher and you get shot. That's not something you'd really conceived of as a possibility in all likelihood, although in modern Western culture, that might not be true anymore. I think ultimately, you know, adultery, if you're in a relationship that purports to be a monogamous relationship and you're absolutely stunned that your spouse or partner cheated on you, I think there's an ignorance to that. I don't think anyone should feel that safe, that anyone should say like, oh yeah, no, there's absolutely no way my partner would ever cheat on me. I think that's a really, a willful blindness. We've just created a society where if someone forgives their partner after an infidelity, that they're pilloried for it in a way that they wouldn't be if they left. If you leave, you're applauded. Like if Beyonce had left Jay-Z when he allegedly cheated on her, she would have been a girl boss. But she actually took a lot more, I think, flack for the fact that she stayed in that relationship for whatever reasons, whether it's economic ones or whether it's that they have children together and they wanted to continue to be co-parents in the same household. I have no idea what happened in that marriage, but, I do know that she very publicly, made an entire album essentially shaming him publicly, and he kind of had to swallow that. So I don't know if that's sufficient punishment. It's not for me to say what someone's penance should be at the end of the day, but I think that it was probably a harder thing to forgive and move on. It's harder to keep a door open than to slam it shut. And I think when people, move through these things, they have to do it alone, because I think if you tell the people in your life and in your circle, yeah, we had this, this issue between us and there was a betrayal or an infidelity, there's a reality that people go, yeah, no one's ever going to look at him the same again or look at her the same again. And my friends are going to think I'm a cuck, or my friends are going to think I'm a pushover. And that's a lonely place for people to be. But people have lots of reasons why they stay together. Some are economic, some are interpersonal. A lot of times if people have children, they have a lot of incentive to swallow some things. So, I'm not as fascinated by this car wreck that's happened at this Coldplay show. Because I just am no longer surprised when people cheat on each other. But yeah, it's hit a nerve, man. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's making jokes about it. It's become part of the cultural zeitgeist. And, when you got Andrew Tate and Matt Walsh weighing in and every late night show making jokes about it, like it says something about how fascinated we are by this stuff. And we all want to slow down and watch the car crash. The T app spilling it all over Reddit, creating all kinds of chaos. Who wins this war? Divorce lawyers, maybe?
So the T app was created it's an all-female team. So the idea was that you have to be a woman to use it. They verify your ID, your face, and the idea was you could post maybe the guy you're talking to, the guy you're dating, yes, and other women could see it and go, hey, yes, I know him. He cheated on me once. Yes. Hey, I know him. He's a good guy. So this is how it was created.
Something tells me it's going to be more of the former than the latter, but yeah.
So what quickly happened?
Leave a Google review.
So basically, it's like a Yelp review for men. Mm-hmm. And what quickly happened, you'll see in these TikToks.
I think I probably would already be able to, like, who didn't see that? That's like saying, like, oh, I left the dog alone with a pile of ground hamburger, and you're never going to believe what happened next. You're like, if it's anything other than the dog ate the fucking hamburger, I'm going to be surprised, But all right, here we go.
That's why you sitting here making these TikToks cop and plea. You don't want to play no more about the T app. They making a Reddit page. You're fucking panicking, bitch. You bitches that are homebodies is about to be exposed because you catch a lot of bodies in that home. It's up and it's stuck. And honestly, like I said, for the guys too, I gotta play fair. You can't sue if it's true. Defamation of character is not a thing if you fucking did it, bitch. Hey man, it's not my business what happened in your bedroom. But stop trying to get everybody on this fucking bandwagon that it's not that deep or it's not that serious or we need to chill, this and that, whatever. Nah, bitch, we're nosy. We live in a generation where motherfuckers is nosy as fuck. That's not information that you could just leave out, okay? Like I said in my first video, play ball. I'm thinking everybody like me, you feel me? I be chilling. Listen, I've had my good old days, whatever. It wasn't too crazy. However, you bitches have had your good days. You bitches went through an actual hoe phase. I ain't really do all of it. I've had my fair share, but I ain't do all of that to a point where motherfuckers get on the app and be like, oh my God, she fucked the entire city. Oh my God, it was 2 niggas in the room with their pants down to their fucking ankles. Like, you feel, that shit is wild. That shit is wild. Like, where your dad at? Like, I have to, like, if I gotta give the men shit for it,
I'll give some background on what happened here. So, this comes out, women are posting all these men. All of a sudden, you've got women fighting in the comments saying, hey, I'm talking to him right now. No, I'm talking to him right now. Women are fighting in the comments. Men get a hold of this. This will be the second TikTok you watch. Men get a hold of this and they say this isn't fair because men can't use it. Men can't go on. It's only women. So you just take a look at the second TikTok.
Okay, yep, let's see.
And another thing, when the guys come out with a a T-app equivalent? Because you know they will. That shit gonna get wicked. And I don't want to hear anybody say that anybody is wrong. When they start finding out that like 2 weeks before they made themselves and their girls official, that girl had a train ran on them. And she feel like, well, we weren't together for real. We hadn't made it official. And it's just over? When they find out last year she was going through a little something and 10 niggas ran through her in the month of fucking April, it's not going to be a ha-ha, a kiki. It's just shit gonna get crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
so men made a Reddit page that has now been removed in the same cities where they basically did the same thing in reverse, but they had receipts. They were posting the text messages, and all of a sudden, all sorts of women are getting exposed, and it's been a whole mess, to say the least.
So I'm going to weigh in on this in the following fashion, and maybe this is a controversial take, but I'm going to go ahead and say it because this is my belief, and I've had some conversations about this with people as of late. I think we need to just stop. In general, I think we just need to stop. But this is an arms race that no one is going to win, guys. This is not good. And I think we've kind of got to get past the body count thing. And I mean it on both directions. We've got to get past the shaming people for giving a shit about body counts, and we've got to get past the shaming people for having a high body count. I think people have a right to have insecurities about or to be judgmental about people's sexual pasts. And people also have a right to be forgiving of it and to let it go and to not have it be relevant. Do you really want to know? Do you really look at your own behavior? Look at your own life. Do you really want all of your sins to be laid bare? Do you really want that? Be honest with yourself. Just stop for a second. Are you truly that innocent? Are you that person without sin who can cast the first stone? Because if you're not, maybe just shut the fuck up. Maybe just stop. Because it doesn't, really, are you the sum total of your bad decisions? Is the worst moment you had in a relationship indicative of who you are in the totality of relationships? Because if it's not true for you, it might not be true for the person who's your potential romantic partner. Listen, I know a lot of people who had very innocent upbringings and very low body counts and got into their relationships. And then ultimately they're like a dog let out of a cage at some point, whether it's 10 years later or 20 years later, and they're just ready to sleep with anything that walks. And I know people that went through it and kind of had a crazy, what you want to call hoe phase or a male slut phase or whatever you want to call it. And they went out and they did their thing. And then they went, yeah, you know what? It's tired, man. It just became a kind of work. And it made me realize that the path to excess leads to the palace of wisdom. And I just don't want that. And now I'm ready to settle down. And I just think the bottom line is there's no one size fits all in any of this, whether for the person who has the body count or the person who's deciding whether or not body count's important to them. But maybe just shut the fuck up and don't ask questions you don't want to know the answer to. It's not really that relevant if a person cheated in the past, if they're not going to cheat on you. What's relevant is, are they going to cheat on you? And I understand that past behavior can be indicative of future performance, but it's not always the case. And I think fundamentally to just say, oh, well, this person has a high body count because of what they did in their 20s or whatever, or their teens, and therefore that's the totality of who they are. I don't believe in that. And by the way, particularly religious people have absolutely no business positing this, because if you believe in redemption and you believe in the concept of a person having an epiphany and changing dramatically, well, you also have to accept that. You have to accept that that's a possibility. So, look, guys, there is no shortage of evidence to support the theory that men suck. And there is no shortage of evidence to support the theory that women suck. And there is absolutely an abundance, I can tell you, representing men and representing women. I can make a pretty strong case for how either side is completely to blame. But at the end of the day, the truth's at the bottom of a bottomless pit. And do we all just want to chase a rabbit down that pit and never get out and never get anywhere? Or do we just want to put this shit down? I don't think a world where men are flailing is ever a world where women are thriving. And I don't think a world where women are flailing is a world where men are thriving. I think we're stuck with each other. And I think we got to figure this out. But this arms race of who's going to win, which team's going to win, great, you won. Now what? Now what? You can be right or you can be happy. Like, I just don't think this is that fucking important, man. Like, narking on each other in this way. I mean, if this was one of your friends, your same gender friend, and they said, yeah, man, you know, like I was like, I ran around with so many women and now I've met the woman and I think she's the one. And, you know, I don't want to be judged by what I did in the past. Like, you'd support your friend. You would say to your friend, like, hey, man, you know, like, you're not the sum of your past. Like, yeah, you used to have a drug issue. Now you don't. That doesn't mean that's who you are. It means that's what you did. That was your behavior, but you're better than that. You can be different. You can change. You can be whoever you want to be. You would say that. But if it was your enemy, of course, now you're going to find any excuse as to why they suck. It's all proof of the fact that they suck. So that's how we're treating it now. Men, we're trying to find evidence to support the theory that women suck. Women, you're trying to find evidence to support the theory that men suck. And guess what? You're both going to be successful and you're both going to be fucking miserable and alone. Or you're going to have each other to sit around and talk about how the other side sucks so much. And if you consider that to be good company, knock yourself out. Like, if this is what you want to do on a Friday night, instead of being out with a member of the opposite sex, having sex or having fun or laughing together, that you'd rather be sitting around looking into a little box, looking at advertisements, having your data sold and talking about the fact that the other gender sucks. If that's your idea of a fun Friday night, knock yourself the fuck out. Go right ahead. There will be an app for that, I promise. But personally, I think if I'm given the opportunity to like go to a physical location and interact with other people and try to share some space and some laughs and potentially even some bodily fluids versus being on Reddit, like, yeah, it's not a hard decision for me. You can take Reddit and shove it right up your ass. So I think it's absolutely understandable that everybody's so fascinated by this stuff, but it's an arms race that nobody's going to win. This is the doctrine of mutually assured destruction. So you guys go right ahead. This is a race to the bottom.
So a lot of people have been talking about in modern dating this kind of expectation of men have to like really provide. Men have to come out the gate spending hundreds of dollars on the first date. They gotta, you know, women are calling the princess treatment. You have to, you know, all these things. So there's been this new trend now of men posting about know your girth, like know your worth, but it's male. So it's basically saying, it's kind of satirizing this expectation of paying all this money. So if you take a look at the videos here.
Okay. I feel dumber for having seen it. Bangs, so that's an issue. I think she should have to pay for dinner because of those bangs, but his chin pubes are terrible too. So I think maybe they deserve each other. I don't know. $120 for ramen? Jesus, that's a lot of money for ramen. And I live in Manhattan. Okay. I get it. I mean, I don't think it's a particularly modern thought that men are the ones who, you know, look, it's how it's always been, is that men are generally the ones who do the wooing and the providing. And it's sort of, you know, I think, you know, it's been the great sort of contradiction of feminism for a long time, is that we want to be equals, but could you open the door for us and pay for our drinks? And I don't think it's actually that hard to reconcile. I think some of those things are just sort of social mores that, you know, are not indicative of who should be allowed to vote and who should be allowed to drive, but it has to do sort of with, you know, how we treat each other. I don't think that there's anything particularly controversial about asserting that. But yeah, of course, I mean, the absurdity of it is most easily on display when you just sort of flip the genders of it and you have a man who's saying, you know, I am the table. You know, that's what I bring to the table. I am the table. I think if you had a group of men, you know, sitting around in like a whatever format like Brian Atlas, you know, puts together, talking about like, you know, what their body count is and talking about like the women who take good care of them and are like their sugar mamas, I think everybody would watch that and be like, dude, those guys are weird, you know? But it's really just a construct. I mean, it's just society. What we've sort of agreed to do. And it's actually sort of a natural offshoot of the society that we envision when we say that gender is purely a construct and that women and men are exactly the same. And even that biological sex doesn't mean anything. Okay, well then we're all, you know, the same. And then let's just treat everyone with that total equality. I think most women wouldn't want that. I think most heterosexual women that I at least know in real life, maybe not on the internet, maybe not on Twitter, but most of the ones I've met in my personal and professional life, generally They like when men are, decisive but thoughtful. Those aren't necessarily contradictory things. They like men who are, who have what we would call some traditionally masculine characteristics. And most of the men that I know, heterosexual men that I know, like a woman who is a little demure, who is a little bit traditionally feminine. And I don't think there's anything controversial about that. I think that this kind of thing is a great way to sort of bring the absurdity of the whole thing to attention. But I also don't think it's like super honest. I mean, I think most of the women I know, including ones who would self-report as very feminist, will also say to you and to each other that the men who they find attractive are largely, very masculine kinds of men, traditionally masculine kinds of men. And I don't think there's anything surprising or shocking about that. And do I think women would be happy in a world where they're expected to buy our drinks? No. But are men happy in a world where we buy women's drinks? A lot of us are. Yeah, a lot of us are. I don't know if that's a social construct, if that's something that we've just been taught is supposed to feel good, but I open doors for women. I open doors for men too, but I open doors for women in particular. If I see a woman walking along and it's raining, I'll offer my umbrella to her. I do that for men too a lot of the time, but definitely more so for women. There's something that for me that feels good about that. It feels gallant. And again, that might be purely a social construct. It might be something biological. It might be a hybrid of those two things. I don't know that you ever get to the bottom of that. Desire of any kind is it's a difficult thing to quantify in some ways, and quantifying it too much probably takes away from the fun of it. But it feels good. It feels good, I think, to be chivalrous. And I think there are a lot of women who, if they're being honest, would say, yeah, it feels good when a man asserts chivalry towards me, because chivalry is a form of strength, but it's also a form of sort of deference. And I don't think those two things have to be antagonistic to each other. So I don't think that women's disempowerment is a form of male empowerment, and vice versa. So I think that, but I like something that brings, attention to the absurdity of the whole thing, and the fact that it is, when you flip it, it makes a point about how we treat each other. But again, I just think we have to get this performative shit where it's like a zero-sum game and we're just, like better for women is worse for men, or better for men is worse for women. We got to get away from that model, man, because we're tearing ourselves apart for no reason.
So it kind of spawns this conversation. This is something that people talk about a lot on Twitter and even in some TikToks, which I won't bog you down with, is the idea that women, but also men, a lot of people really behind closed doors are a lot more traditional than they let on in public.
How is this even vaguely controversial? Of course. Because there's how we're supposed to be in a performative manner and how we actually are. And come on, guys, look at what's popular. 50 Shades of Grey, you know how many copies that thing sold? Twilight, all those kinds of books where it's very traditional gender roles. It's very traditional hypermasculinity and hyperfemininity, and it's very traditional. It's done very well. Look at pornography for men. Look at the popularity of these very delineated, clear lines. Look at what we fantasize about as a culture. Look at our art. Look at our fantasy life to some degree. I mean, even look at same-sex relationships. They take some of the same forms very often, where there's, again, if you want to call it masculine and feminine traits being displayed by one partner or the other. And again, those are just names we gave to these things, gang. It's just, where understanding fails, a word comes to take its place. And we just sort of, throw these terms in masculine, feminine. You can call it something other than that if it makes you feel better. But why not just be honest with ourselves about what we like? I mean, desire is a tricky thing. It's the reason why I never understood homophobia, because there's so many reasons to hate people. Why would their sexual orientation be the one you pick? What an insane thing to be oh, I don't like this person because they desire sexually a person of the same gender presentation. Okay. Why do you like what you like? Why do you enjoy big breasts or small breasts, or big butts or small butts? Or why do you like dark hair versus blonde hair? I don't know. I mean, if you ask Freud, he'd give you one answer, and it had something to do with your mom or your dad, probably. If you but it may not be quite that simple. It may be a whole bunch of different things. It might be early experiences that you have romantically or sexually. It could be early imprinting of, the first people that you saw, in popular media that turned you on when you were in that developmental stage. Who the hell knows? But until you can quantify and explain your desire, really, and again, I'm not talking about desire that's harmful, like to children or things like that. I'm talking about adults desiring other adults in consensual relationships. Like, why in God's name is this something that we just can't say, yeah, you know what? We don't understand why I don't know why I like opening doors for women. I do. I don't know why I like having doors open for me. I don't know why I like to spank somebody in bed or I don't like why I like to get spanked in bed. Whatever it is that you like who the hell cares? Like, if the two of you are okay with it, it doesn't scare the horses. Who cares, man? Just live your life. You know, you're not hurting anybody necessarily. Where you're hurting people is pretending that you don't understand something that you clearly understand, pretending you don't feel something that you so clearly feel, you know, and that's the part. It's like Jim Gaffigan says about McDonald's, you know, like everybody acts like they don't eat McDonald's and that they're above it, but somehow they sell billions of dollars worth of food every year. Well, it can't just be that like, you go, yeah, McDonald's is so bad for me. I can't believe I like it, but you know, I eat it. It's good. It tastes good. Like I've eaten at some of the greatest restaurants in the world. I've eaten at the French Laundry. I've eaten at Le Bernardin. I've eaten at Per Se. A McDonald's French fry tastes amazing, folks. It's incredible. It's a miracle of science that something could taste that good. So again, like, just knock it off. Stop pretending that, you know, we're superior to somebody else in this performative, insane way. This is only metastasizing the way that it is because we've gotten so crazy on social media. It doesn't have to be that way. And I'm telling you, this is creating tremendous instability in people's relationships. It's great for my business model. Like all this shit, all this Twitter stuff and Instagram and TikTok, all this performative stuff about gender and relationships and how you're supposed to feel and what you're supposed to like and what you're supposed to do in your bedroom and what you're supposed to do in your relationship. It's all good for me, folks. It's all good for divorce lawyers. This is the Divorce Lawyer Relief Act of 2025. It's phenomenal for us because all it's doing is making everybody miserable in their relationships and everybody thinks everybody else is doing it better, but nobody's doing it much better. Like everybody's struggling with different stuff and everybody's putting on a fake show of how great they're doing. So we could all just stop, take a breath and say, yeah, this is weird. This is challenging. This is a mystery to me. I don't understand this. Or yeah, I'm having a hard time navigating it sometimes. We'd all be a fuck ton happier. It's a gender battle. It's a generational battle. Am I the asshole? Are they all assholes? Stay tuned. Am I the asshole for telling my boyfriend's mom I'm not her maid? 25 female. My boyfriend, 28 male, and I have been together for almost 2 years. We've recently moved in together, and his mom, 55 female, visits often, which I didn't mind at first. She's very old school and believes women should always be cooking, cleaning, and serving men, which is the opposite of how I was raised. Every time she comes over, she makes passive-aggressive comments like, "You're lucky he still loves you, even when the house looks like this," or "When are you going to learn how to cook a proper meal for him?" Last weekend, she came over unannounced while I was cleaning the kitchen after breakfast. My boyfriend was relaxing on the couch. She immediately said, "Good, at least you're doing something useful today." I snapped and told her, "I'm not your maid and I'm not his maid either. If you have a problem with how we run our house, you can leave." She looked shocked and left shortly after. My boyfriend told me I should have just ignored her because she's old-fashioned and doesn't mean harm. He thinks I was rude and could have handled it better. Now I feel guilty because I knew she grew up with different values, but I also feel like she disrespects me constantly. Am I the asshole for finally telling her off? Yes, you are. You are the asshole. And she's the asshole, and your boyfriend's an asshole. I'm seeing a trend here, by the way. This is like just neck deep in assholes. So you're the asshole, definitely, for not understanding that this woman grew up in a different arrangement than the one that you and your boyfriend have. You're also an asshole for confronting her in such an indelicate way. And if you're going to say, well, I couldn't control myself, I was just so incensed that I had to snap at his mother, then grow the fuck up, because that's not how adults interact with each other. I don't think that you needed to snap and say that I'm not your maid and I'm not his maid. I don't think she was suggesting that you're paid help. Although, again, it's not quite clear what your role is. If both you and your boyfriend work full time, and then in addition to that, he's expecting you to do all of these chores and there aren't similar chores that he's responsible for doing, then I think there's a potential imbalance in your relationship, and that's worth having a conversation with him about, or worth him discussing with his mother that the arrangement that the two of you have is different than the one that she traditionally may have had, or that she might think is the norm in relationships. But just snapping at his mom is certainly not going to help. It's not going to improve the situation. And if you are in a relationship where he is the primary wage earner and works outside the home, and your role is to be home and be a supportive helpmate to him, I don't think it's that out of line to say, hey, day, he works outside the home and you don't. So with that abundance of free time that you possibly have, maybe you could do some domestic tasks around the home. I think that the two people in the relationship are the two people that have the right to make expectations around each other and to make demands of each other. If your boyfriend is fine with you not cooking or cleaning or doing those kinds of things, that's all that matters, is the two of you are comfortable in that arrangement. Do I think that mom should shove her nose in this? Probably not, but she's a mom. Moms do that stuff sometimes. People stick their nose in their children's business. She changed his diapers. She might still have an opinion as to how he lives his life. Someday, if you have children, you'll probably feel that same way about your children, even when they're adults, that you have some right to opine. Hopefully you'll have better boundaries like this. And maybe what she should have done is talk to her son alone and said, hey, do you think that there's an imbalance in your relationship? And maybe her son would have explained to her that, hey, mom, that's not how we conduct our relationship. I just think this kind of shit is just not helpful. Like, I think you are the asshole for just, wanting to win the conflict, and you're not going to win. Like, that's the thing, guys. I fight for a living. I argue people's position for a living. The truth's at the bottom of a bottomless pit, and you can be right or you can be happy. Like, I really don't think that picking these fights is going to help. Like, the better way to handle this is when mom leaves, to sit your boyfriend down and to say to him, babe, is your mom speaking for you? Do you feel there's an imbalance in our relationship? Because if it is, I'd like you to tell me. And if it's not, I'd like you to stand up for me when your mom says things like that and say that this is a discussion that we've had. And boyfriend should definitely have the balls to be able to say to her, no, babe, you know what? It's cool. The dynamic we have makes sense to me. Or he should say, listen, I think it's fair that maybe you should do some more things around the house. And then you guys can have a discussion about how that works. And if you have differing perspectives on that, you're either going to find some common ground or you'll break up. But yeah, I think you're the asshole in this situation for snapping at his mother. You're not an asshole for feeling that way. You're not an asshole for being frustrated at his mother, but you're an asshole for snapping at his mother. That's not helpful. It's not going to improve your relationship with her. It's not going to improve your relationship with him. It's not going to improve his relationship with her. So what was the point? What was the point? There were better ways to handle that conflict. But again, your boyfriend's an asshole for not standing up for you, and mom's a little bit of an asshole for overstepping the boundary, and so all of you are assholes. So what do? Either figure it out and figure out a way to love each other and figure out a way to navigate this together, or it's not going to work. Like, if this is where you're at, it's not going to work. This is not going to be a functional relationship. If he's criticizing you for snapping at his mother, you're snapping at his mother. His mother's now unhappy with you and she's going to be critical of your relationship. What's the point of all of this, guys? You're off to a bad start. You're probably not going to get happily ever after. So figure something else out other than this boys versus girls battle fatigue that all of us are suffering from. Thanks for spending some more time with us, guys. Make sure to like, subscribe. It helps us, and we'll see you again real soon.